Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to a new series. This is called Zeals on Zeals, where I overview a bunch of games that I've played in the last period. Today, I'm going to be starting with June and going through August, and just kind of going over all the games that I've gone through in my backlog. Kind of just going over a brief overview of what they are and introducing them all to you. Thanks for tuning in. So, in the beginning of June, the first game I finished was actually Big Thinker's Kindergarten. This is a short title. It's actually a release of a CD-ROM game. It's a teaching game. You're just kind of solving simple puzzles. There's different types of games. There's like brain games or whatever. And they're supposed to teach you different skills. It kind of was more of like an interactive playroom than anything else. It was kind of cool though because I had the game when I was a kid, so it brought back a lot of nostalgia, but it was also really slow to play through. There was a lot of constant tutorialization of almost everything, and I couldn't really click through any of these tutorials either. But that being said, there was a lot of cute visuals, and it was still fun to play through. So while I don't have zeal for this game, I definitely think it was pretty cool, and I'm glad I got the opportunity to play it. The next game I played in June was Super Mario Bros. 3. This was actually on the Wii Virtual Console, so it was really cool. I got to, play it on the Wii Remote Controller. I did have a lot of fun with it. It had some pretty engaging difficulty. It kept me immersed. It made me focus on how many lives I had left. A lot of the platforms were in specific places, so I really had to take into consideration where they were when I was jumping. Some of the enemies were also tricky to get around, and I didn't have as many movement options as we do in the more modern platformers, so I thought it was definitely an interesting experience. I actually had a lot of fun with it. A lot of the worlds were tricky, but I liked powering through it. The checkpoints were also really cool, so in this game you can save, I guess, almost at the beginning of every world. If this game was actually played on the NES, I'm not sure if it would be the same, but it allowed me to save at the beginning of every world, and then sometimes key doors would unlock certain things. So like completing a castle level would enable me to fly through the map and get a brand new way to access these later levels, which would allow me to then try them with more lives, because you start each world with I think 4 lives. That ended up being a lot of fun, and I'm super glad I got to play that. I actually did have zeal for that one. It was super engaging. Then I'm gonna move to July, so I only did end up playing 2 games in June, but that's because I started this game, Grand Theft Auto 5. It was super long. Not sure that I actually ended up liking it that much, and I know this is kind of like a favorite for most people, so I was a bit surprised because I actually really like the story. And whenever I would see the characters talking on the screen, I was super hyped about it and actually really enjoyed listening to what they had to say. But then a lot of the missions were just kind of meh. I would, go through a drag racing mission, and then I would have to do 2 or 3 more of the same exact thing. A lot of the ones that were for the story were kind of cooler. Like sometimes you'd have to pick specific things to do on a heist or pick your team members and stuff like that. And then it kind of felt that the motivations from the story were motivating me to do it a lot more. I had some cool aspects of it, but I really don't think it was worth it. I spent maybe 30 hours on it almost, and I did play through the whole thing because I did like to see where the story was going, but I just felt like there was a lot of filler in there. There was just, I'd have to drive for a couple minutes just to get from place to place, and it's not like it was that hard, but it was just kind of tedious, and I feel like not as enjoyable as what I was really hoping it would be. Granted, I did have a lot of fun, especially when I was younger. I had played this one before, but really just kind of using it as a sandbox experience and driving around, taking over whoever's car I wanted, just kind of flying from place to place. That was fun for me as a kid, but actually playing through the story, there was a lot of filler that really didn't incite zeal in me. So I'm gonna have to say no zeal for that one. Another game I played in July, I guess I was maybe into racing games at this time. I played Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, which was actually quite cool. A lot better than I thought it was going to be. This was a kart racer that I was actually pretty stoked about when I picked it up a couple years ago. And it took me a while to get adjusted. I'd never played the original. I'd only really played Mario Kart at the time, and now I've played a couple other ones, but it took me a while to get adjusted because this isn't really exactly a Mario Kart clone. I mean, many things are the same, but what's really different is this drifting mechanic, and it's really cool. And what you would do in this game is you have to like build up mini turbos by exactly pressing the opposite trigger when you're drifting, and that's how you get your boosts. So it was actually a lot of fun. I enjoyed playing through that one because it wasn't easy either. Like I was playing on the normal difficulty, and there were a couple fights where I just lost, and it was a lot more to consider than I initially thought. The items kind of are just a ripoff of a lot of the Mario ones, and I think for something that's so intense and sometimes can be challenging, I think maybe they should have considered picking more skill-based items, but not a huge deal. I think this was really counteracted because in the story mode, which was surprisingly fun, instead of a Grand Prix like they have in Mario Kart, they have individual levels that you have to complete just to get first place. So it really pushes you to gain complete mastery over each course. But then they also, have that leeway because sometimes you might have a huge breakaway and then other people catch up with items, but then you don't have to carry out a first place victory throughout multiple races in a cup. That was cool. Unfortunately, there was also like a huge barrier for characters. You had to probably play for, I don't know, forever to unlock all these characters. And I think I did really enjoy it. I don't know that it's maybe my go-to racer because I think it would be kind of tricky to have everybody pick up the controls quite quickly. But I think, for the story mode and for the single player mode, I did have some zeal for this one. I don't know if it's my strongest recommendation, but quite cool. So now we are going into August, and August I had a huge month actually, which was cool. I really tried to devote a lot of time towards gaming, and that was great for me. So the first game I played, actually I reviewed on Rapid Reviews UK, and that was Pikmin 4. And I was super excited to get into this one. I loved Pikmin 3 on the Wii U, and it was, pretty much everything I'd hoped for. Super engaging, loved being able to optimize the different levels and putting my Pikmin to bring stuff back to me as fast as possible. I liked the characters, they were pretty nice. The story's not really anything crazy, but it was a nice premise. I enjoyed seeing how the puzzles worked and taking out all the enemies. It was pretty cool in this game, at least for the main story. They have like permanent death for all the enemies that you encounter, so you can really spend days just taking out all the enemies in the world, and then at the end, optimizing everyone on a route to come back and track all the items down, which is kind of how I spent my time with this game, and I thought that was really cool. It kind of gave you a lot of flexibility in how you wanted to structure your days, but then at the same time, it is a Pikmin game, and you got to worry about, how your creatures are going to die and stuff like that, so sometimes it can be stressful, but this one definitely was, a lot less stressful than what I would have anticipated. It was still a lot of fun, really, really cool. I enjoyed, they have this new implementation of Owachi, which is a dog who will help you carry your stuff. They put more focus on the Dandori battles and really implemented them into the gameplay, which was really fun. And I thought it was actually a really great improvement on the formula. So I love to see, what they do with the future Pikmin games, and I also would really like to check out Pikmin 1 and 2 potentially in the future. I kind of kicked it off with another review for Rapid Reviews UK, and that was Garlic. And Garlic is actually a game I've been watching for a little while before it came out, and just by the developer. But then Ratalaika Games published this one, and I got an opportunity to review it for the site, and it's actually really cool. A lot better than I was anticipating, and I really had high hopes. So it was really great. I noticed that it was a fast-paced platformer, definitely flying through levels, trying to get through as quickly as possible, but it was still precise. I had to make sure that I was hitting my targets exactly like I wanted to. There were definitely some tricky enemies to get around, and you had to dash, always into them, and if you missed, you could definitely die and, fall back. One of the final levels was, definitely ridiculous. You had to like hold onto the side of falling platforms and, monitor pretty much everything that's going on around you at all times. It was cool though. I really think that the game came together quite nicely. I liked how the checkpoints were really lenient. So sometimes these games can go on for a really long time without putting a good checkpoint in, or sometimes I'll have to replay too much of a level. But this one really felt like it was doing the job right. It also had these little mini segments where you were like doing different tasks, which I thought was really cute. So sometimes you would like be hiding in a locker or be trying to, send a box of chocolates to your crush. So just kind of cute stuff like that. It had like a really distinct style that helped it resonate in my brain. Definitely Zeal on that one, super exciting. Then I played Figment, and I actually got Figment for free. They were trying to advertise, I guess, in anticipation for Figment 2, and honestly, I really didn't like it at all. Super disappointing, actually. I found the puzzles super tedious. I didn't like how slow my character was. The puzzles honestly didn't really make me feel smart either. I just kind of felt like I was going through the motions. And then I guess worst part of all is like, the art style is usually one of the main selling points of this game. And I didn't like it actually. I thought it was kind of gross. And I didn't like the style, how they were focused so much on musicals, and the story, while it was kind of cool and I think it told a very good tale of trying to get out of your comfort zone and stuff like that, I still didn't really like it that much. So definitely no Zeal on that one. That actually might be one of the worst games I've played in this quarter. Definitely not of all time, but definitely left an impact almost negatively on my experience. So, that same day, I was feeling so bummed out about not enjoying Figment that I actually played Lol Inc. And this was a game that my brother got me for Christmas. It's super short, super gimmicky. It's basically like Dumb Ways to Die, but a little bit different. They have these little mini games, and you have to complete a certain number of them in a row, and then you can move on to the next boss. There's only 3 bosses. Super short, maybe it took me like an hour. But it was really fun because there's a lot of constant action. So I was always doing something, always trying to work towards the next objective. And, I thought it was a lot of fun. These characters were cute. They were clearly ripping off, like, major name IPs. Like, some of them were it was literally Batman flying through different areas and trying to get people from windows and save them and stuff like that. But I still actually enjoyed it a lot, despite how short and gimmicky it was. But I don't think I have Zeal for it. There wasn't as much content as I liked, but I think it was really good. So I'm really glad I played it. I think I did enjoy it, but I don't know that I can, recommend it or feel super excited about it here. I also played Injustice, and throughout this month, I was feeling super into fighting games, and specifically the Warner Brothers ones. So I was super excited to get into this one, and the storyline was cool. As somebody who doesn't really know Warner Bros. Stuff, I was kind of anticipating something that would be over my head, but it was super simple. Main characters were definitely more prevalent than the crazier ones, so that was cool. It kept me engaged, and I thought that the characters and writing was really good. There were also some cinematic parts as well that were super hype, actually, and I was definitely impressed by how much I was interested in the story in addition to the fighting. And as for the fighting, classic Warner Bros. Fighting game, really good. Mechanics were good. I'm not a huge fighting game person. I don't know every single combo, but I was able to have a lot of fun with it. I was able to take out the computer on medium level, which was totally adequate for me, and I had a lot of fun. That being said, I started the game, I played the regular tutorial and the advanced tutorial, but they didn't have the character tutorials, which kind of bummed me out. And I really did like that. I played Mortal Kombat 11, I guess, before this, and that was a really huge part of that game for me, which really helped me get to know characters on a deeper level. The tutorials didn't really help me there, and neither does the story. So as a part of this story, you're kind of playing as a lot of different characters. So you never, or at least I never really got that deep understanding of how each character worked because I was bouncing through so many all at a time. But the characters are really sick, and I really had a lot of fun with it. So yeah, definitely some Zeal there. Definitely a lot of intensity there, and kind of just segueing right into it. I also played Mortal Kombat X this August even, and that one was really great. Basically the same thing. Tutorials aren't as good as the Mortal Kombat 11. It's definitely gorier. There's definitely, a really cool story here, a lot of cool cinematics, but I really liked it. The one difference that I also enjoyed about Mortal Kombat X is that there were a lot of styles for every character. So I could play as one character in one fight and then play as that same character and have a couple different moves while still having, a little bit more variety that could help me customize my character and potentially even benefit me in some matchups. Not that I really understood the combat that much where I was making those kind of decisions, but super cool. Definitely enjoyed it. Enjoyed the story. Liked the characters here. A little bit more comfortable with the Mortal Kombat characters, actually, surprisingly. But no, super cool. And really enjoy it. Looking forward to Mortal Kombat 1 if I ever get a chance to play that. So another game I played this month, super crazy month, August for me, was Donkey Kong Country Returns. This was great. So I loved Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze on the Wii U. So I grabbed this one from my library. I had it since when I was a kid, maybe never got past World 3. This was the time for me. So I did end up beating the whole game. Super fast paced. It was, tight controls, moving from platform to platform, jumping on enemies. But one big thing about this one is they really hit home on those motion controls, and I did not like that. So I think even just to roll, I had to use motion controls, which was super tedious, super frustrating, often led to me getting unnecessary deaths, and kind of a bit of a downer. I know it was supposed to be on the Wii and stuff like that, but definitely a bit of a bummer because other than that, I mean, the level design is fantastic. The art style is really cool. I like the characters. I like the enemies. I think this totem tiki kind of vibe is really cool and something that other games should maybe implement more often. Bit disappointed by the motion controls, but other than that, really, really cool. Definitely have some zeal for it. Overall, really great. And then the final game I played through in August was Sephony. This one I also played for review on Rapid Reviews UK, so you'll see a more detailed analysis there. But I was actually surprisingly disappointed with this one. So I really liked Anodyne 2, which is developed by the same developers as Sephony, and in comparison, this story was quite disinteresting actually. So this story takes part in a special island called Sephony, where these 3 different explorers go through and kind of document different animals and plant lives and try to find different revelations, sometimes even morph into them to try and see how that can mesh with the human DNA. And it was kind of a cool concept, but the developer is known for trying to take these stories and making them personal and talking about mental health and struggles and stuff like that. And honestly, it didn't really hit with me. I really liked Anodyne 2, and I think I like what the developer was going for, but having the 3 different characters kind of diversified what he could have talked about. And I think the game failed to resonate with me because it just didn't have as deep of a connection with one of the characters. So it kind of just felt like all 3 of the characters were similar and kind of the same. And obviously, they were written by the same person, but they were so kind of the same that their differences didn't stand out, and then each of their storylines kind of blended together, and it didn't hit me as much as I was hoping it would. So I'm hoping in the future maybe they either focus on one character again or really go deep into the differences and make sure that each of these characters stand out so much. However, the game was actually quite fun. So the puzzles were really cool. They had these little block puzzles where you move pieces almost like a Connect 3 game around a board and try to get as many as possible in. You have to hit a threshold or the enemy will hurt you. It was a really cool premise and I liked it, but getting to these puzzles wasn't as fun. So you kind of navigated this 3-dimensional world. You did different parkour with like wall running and bouncing off walls and dashing and stuff like that, which was cool, but it wasn't as cool as I wanted it to be because there was a huge open world, and the most fun part were these puzzles. So I found myself kind of dragging myself through this world, which the controls of navigating the world weren't even that fun anyway. Like the movement mechanics were kind of hard to navigate, and while it was actually, it ended up getting a lot more interesting later on in the game, but in the beginning at least, it was just so easy to get from point A to point B, except the controls were kind of janky. So it was difficult to motivate myself to get there. But, in the end, it ended up having a lot of fun. That being said, the slow pacing and that like exploration and getting lost component of the game weren't a huge seller for me. So I think it missed its mark a little bit, but I really definitely do believe that these developers are capable of creating great games. And I think that this is a very good game. It just, wasn't good enough for me to feel excited about it or have that zeal for it. So I'm really glad that we got this opportunity to go through what I played this past couple months. I'm hoping to try to do these more frequently, just these short form reviews that maybe just show my progress and seeing what what kind of a den I'm leaving in my backlog. And, obviously I like to promote the other reviews that I'm doing as well. So happy to talk about them here. Maybe some of these I'll do a more detailed review on if there's any interest there. But regardless, I just think, check some of these games out. Thank you so much for checking this video out. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any suggestions for games I should play in the future, feel free to let me know down in the comments below.